morning and good afternoon. I'm Ed Gabriel, the president of the American Task Force on Lebanon. Today we have an interview scheduled with Prime Minister Najib Mikati, who has taken time from an extremely busy schedule to be with us. As you know, the Prime Minister has served in this capacity for a number of years and on a number of occasions, and has been working on behalf of his country for the last couple of decades. Prime Minister, welcome to this interview.
Hi, Ed. Hi, everybody. Good morning if you are in States, and good afternoon and evening if you are in this region.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. As you know, there are quite a few policymakers on this call this morning, along with this being broadcast in Lebanon. You know, we're going to jump into it because you have a very limited time, and again, we appreciate all that the time you're spending with us. You know, how much more can the Lebanese people take? We don't know. Now you've got 1 million people displaced and more injuries and deaths. On top of it's a crisis within a crisis when you think about it. On top of the refugees per capita, it's been a very tough time for you, I know. I'm going to jump into a couple of questions, jump around a little bit, but there's a lot of people that are looking for your leadership and your responses to a number of issues. Again, thank you. Now, you were quoted recently following a meeting with Speaker Berry, which sounded like an important meeting, and you said, following a ceasefire, we in Lebanon are ready to implement 1701. And immediately upon implementation of the ceasefire, Lebanon is ready to send the Lebanese army to the area south of the Litani and carry out its full duties in coordination with UN peacemakers. Can you expand on this? Tell us how the conversation went. I guess importantly, what makes you think Hezbollah is going to accept this formula that you and the speaker seem to be coming to? Thank you again.
Thank you. Ed, it is not the first time that we say we respect Resolution 1701. We mentioned this once with you in interview, in Zoom interview, if you remember. We had Jeff Feltman with us, and we had Tariq Mitri at that time who explained the 1701. And I said it is 8 months ago that we, Lebanon, we have to implement 1701 fully, immediately, because whatever is going to happen, more destruction, more blood, and at the end, we will say, okay, we adopt 1701 to be implemented. I'm saying, please, from now, let's save this kind of blood, and as soon as possible, if we can implement 1701. In fact, how it started now to renew this. We renew this at last Wednesday, like today. Last Wednesday, when I was in New York, we had contacts and so on through the United Nations, meeting with the American administration, with Secretary of State, talking with President Macron, and they mentioned that there is a declaration going to appear from the White House. Declaration, American, France, Australia, Canada, just name it, Italy, Germany, United Arab Emirates, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, European Union, all they endorsed a declaration made by the White House saying that we go to implementation in 1701, a truce or a ceasefire for 21 days, while in these 21 days, we will go to diplomatic solution, and we discuss how we will implement properly and fully the 1701. That's what I said yesterday. I said, we accept, I welcome this declaration at that time on last Wednesday night. And today I confirm and we undertake that we are ready to deploy the Lebanese army to the south of Litani immediately, to put in place the 1701 as should be. Don't forget 1701. I have to take into consideration that since 2006 to 2024, every day we had Israel will violate the 1701 by air, by sea, by land, whatever you call it. But now I'm saying it will be implemented and respected by all parties immediately. immediately, and we, as Lebanese, we are ready to do so. That's what we agree with the Speaker Berry, and that's what I believe it is the interest of the whole region. You know what's going on. I said also with you last interview that I'm worried of a regional war. Is it the time to do this? That's what we want to do it. Now let's start with this kind of implementation of 1701, and we'll see how we can reconstruct Lebanon and whatever happens the last 8 months.
Thank you. And just the question on Hezbollah, do you believe Hezbollah is going to be supportive of this process in this proposal?
I will tell you that yesterday when I met before yesterday when I met the President Speaker Berry, it was clear that President Berry told me that this declaration of the White House was welcomed also at that time by Hezbollah. And he was also in a negotiation with the American administration, and the wording, it was approved by Hezbollah too.
Thank you. Look, a lot has happened since we saw you last week in New York. There's now a school of thought in Washington that Israel won't quit it. There's a school of thought in Washington now that Israel won't quit its assault until after the U.S. elections in November. The longer the war lasts, some say, the more strength Hezbollah gains. What's your message to the Americans and the Israelis, and what are your plans if this thing gets extended in terms of working with the problem to the people?
Anyone is care about Lebanon, we has to look for a ceasefire. That's my message. Stop fighting. We don't need more blood. We don't need more destruction. That's my message to anyone I'm calling. Just another. I put ceasefire in another way. Why Israel is not accepting a ceasefire today? So they are looking for war. We are looking to have a diplomatic solution. In diplomatic solution, it will be a win-win. In fact, what's going on today, I'm worried to be a lose-lose. Why you choose the option of lose-lose instead of choosing the option of win-win? Win-win, what's win for whom? Win for Lebanon, it will be stability. 1701 will be implemented fully. The citizen of north of Israel, they will be back to their houses and homes. So that's what we are looking for. Let us management by objective. What's our objective? What's their objective? If we can meet it peacefully, why we are choosing the option of war?
So, Mr. Prime Minister, there's mixed reactions coming from the Israelis on 1701. We just saw where a minister called for it yesterday, or this past week. Do you have any indication of where the Israelis stand on 1701? Because it will stop, if it's implemented, will stop overflights by Israel. Any feel there in terms of Israel's interest in moving ahead on full implementation?
Also, last Wednesday, we had a session at the Security Council about Lebanon, and this session was asked by the French to do it. And I had a speech and followed by speech by the Israeli representative. And the Israeli representative said they will respect 1701 and the solution is 1701. So if we both of us, we agree upon this, why are we making the option of war? Let's go to this option. They said this.
Yes. So let me we have such limited time. Let me shift to another subject, which is really important and something we're talking about in Washington. I think you'd agree it's embarrassing that the Lebanese political parties can't come together in support of their country at a time when it's one of the most important and most difficult times in its history. I think you'll agree that you need a head of state more than ever now, especially one that's internationally respected. You don't need a ceasefire to get this done. What assurances do you have from Speaker Berry and your other colleagues in government and in the parliament
I would tell you,
to move on a president now, Mr. Prime Minister?
Yesterday, during a brainstorm with the speaker, I mentioned we have three pillars. First pillar is to maintain and to enforce the government and the state. And the state should cover all Lebanese, and especially today, during this huge displaced people, how we can serve and what we can do. Second, we are looking, and we mentioned this about 1701 and deploy of Lebanese army in the south. Third, it is a political path. And in this political path, first and foremost important is electing a new president. Electing a new president, and for the first time that Mr. Berry said he need a personality, not challenging parents' personality, not defeated anybody, accepted by all parties. So this now, just if we can elaborate it a little bit, it can be done. It is, yeah, I ask myself in this very critical time, if we don't go and together and to elect a president, when we can elect a president, when there is a peace, we say we have the time, we have time to elect. And when it is the right time, now it is the right time to elect president. But we have to take into consideration the difficult time today after the perception of what's going on with Hezbollah. We cannot neglect this and neglect their opinion in electing a president. They are a large community. They exist in the community. They are a large political party. We didn't discuss this yet with them. I discussed this with the speaker. So we have to make a large consultation in order to lead to have a president, not a president. It will be accepted by all parties, not to challenge to any party.
And on that note, I guess you're talking about making sure the Shia community is involved in moving forward, because they've been so disenfranchised and hurt recently. Along with all confessions of Lebanon, will you have all of them as full partners as you deal with the post-Israeli process, but tomorrow morning when you elect a president?
Oh, of course, yes, definitely. Of course, true. You answered the question. Excellent. Very good.
Okay, so let me just bring up a concern we do have. There seems to be two schools of thought in Lebanon, at least in the American Lebanese community. Some are happy that Nasrallah has been defeated. Others are very upset about the way Israel is conducting this war and the innocent people that are being killed. Do you worry that there's going to be a fraction here, a fissure that could lead to civil unrest and even worse, going back to the days of the Civil War? What are you doing to protect that? What have you done to deploy the LAF around the country?
First, all statement and declaration by all Lebanese parties after the death of Nasrallah was all showed sympathy with the Shia community and with Hezbollah, and they were sad of missing Hassan Nasrallah. So that's one. Second, yes, I cannot deny or just don't tell you that the Lebanese community, all Lebanese, they are very fragile. We are fragile. But at this stage, when the war is going on, we are trying to adopt everybody, to accept, to try to live together in order just to pass this very difficult time. But so far, thanks God, there is nothing unpredictable and unpredicted, and we are trying to contain what's going on. Don't forget, we are in Lebanon. We have around less than 2 million Syrians as a refugee, and today overnight we had over 1.2 million of Lebanese displaced, because we were expecting Lebanese to be displaced from the south, and overnight in few hours from the south, from suburbs of Beirut and from Bekaa, They moved at the same time, at the same hour, and we have this around 1.2 million. So we are trying to cope with this problem, but I'm feeling, I'll tell you the truth, security wise, it is good. The most important now to arrange for them shelter and to arrange food and to arrange how we can manage these places as they are there.
So this is a great lead into one of my final questions, and that is the humanitarian crisis and also the needs. On the one hand, you're in charge of a government that has institutions that must respond to the people's needs. On the other hand, there's probably a role for the international community to play in making sure the displaced are taken care of today and then helped to resettle tomorrow. There's so much going on in terms of the humanitarian need and also with the redeployment of the Lebanese Armed Forces and their needs. What are you doing with your institutions to address this problem? And what do you need from the international community? This is an important question for you to address our American audience.
You know that we have, you know, our resources, and our resources are very modest. And to tell you, yesterday we had a flash-up meeting with all donors, representative in Lebanon and international agencies, UN international agencies, and all representing international community. They were very generous. We asked for $427 million for the next 3 months. In the meeting yesterday, we collect $200 million, and all the others, they are going to ask the government and to place this. I ask that this all money coming to Lebanon to pass to channel through UN and under the governance and transparency and control of UN in coordination with Lebanese government. So today, as we are talking now, the international community, they are feeling sympathy with us. They are cooperating with us. Now we need next step. We have to look to the LAF, to the Lebanese Armed Forces, to LAF in order with the day we decide to go to the south. Whenever a ceasefire, definitely we need extra resources. We need extra financial resources. We need all the tools and all equipment and all tools and arms and clothes to the Lebanese army. I already asked to recruit a 1,500, but 1,500 is not enough. We need to deploy in south around over 10,000. Today it exists around 4,500. So 1,500, it will be 6. We can deploy from other places in Lebanon another 4 as soon as possible, but we have to arrange for them and to prepare for them the decent way to be present and to make their job fully, as 1701 is mentioning, not just a decor. It will be this time 1701 should be implemented in full by both parties.
So what specifically do you need to do politically and otherwise to get the institutions in a position on common cause to help the people? How do you see that coming together? What is it that you as Prime Minister can do to mobilize your institutions to also be helpful and reassure the donor community that you're ready to deliver in the right fashion?
Finally, all people and all citizens believe that the state should be strong, and today we are consolidating more and more. People they see that the state is the last resort, and 2 weeks ago when we had the problem of the pagers, it was the health care was done great job. They did a very great job. And imagine 4,000 victims they have been adopted in hospital in half an hour or in 1 hour time. 1,100 ambulances moved in the capital in Beirut to take people. So the government, we are ready. We are following. If you like, and if you have time, and if I have time, we can tell you all our mapping and our plan for this, or I can send it to you documented.
It'd be good to let, of course, our audiences see that in the
Thank you,
coming
Ed.
day,
Thank you very
days.
much,
Let me
Ed.
just
Ed, I
let
have
me
to leave. You mentioned me
let,
15 minutes.
let me
Believe me,
just
I have meeting. I have to go. And
one
you'll see,
last comment.
and you
One
follow
last
news. And
comment. Tell
you
us
follow
what.
the news. You'll see where I'll be in 15 minutes.
Okay, just one last question. What do you want to leave us with, the American audience? What do you want to say to us as one last comment?
The American audience should be fair. We are looking and we are asking for a ceasefire, and there is an immediate need for ceasefire. And just to say, let them see if they are fair, looking who is violating all the international and humanitarian norms. And this is specifically, I am looking for this community to see and to make the right pressure on their government and on the administration, saying, please let us work all together for a ceasefire and permanent stability in the south of Lebanon and with the border with Israel.
I want to thank you, Mr. Prime Minister,
Thank
for
you.
it was a Lebanese 15 minutes, but we got through it. So thank you very much,
Thank you.
and good
Thank
luck to you.
you.
Let me now turn over this forum to two great colleagues of ours, Maha Yahya and Paul Salem. Maha's with the Carnegie Institute, the Malcolm Kerr Carnegie Institute in Beirut. And Paul, of course, is our Vice President for International Affairs for the Middle East Institute. So there we have it, a conversation with the Prime Minister. He was forward-leaning on a few things. We didn't have enough time to really drill down on a few things. So what's your assessment of the conversation, and what other comments would you like to make? Maha, why don't you go first?
Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Thank you, Ed, for hosting this. I think the government is very sincere about the implementation of 1701. There is a need to stop this conflict and stop it now. This is a country, this is not the first crisis. If one just was to go back to 5 years ago, it's a country that's been in perpetual crisis. And the needs today are huge. 1 million people displaced. He mentioned the flash appeal with the UN, but it's beyond that. It's not just the displacement, it's the horrific level of destruction that we're watching and we're witnessing. We've been arguing for a year now that the only way to stabilize the region, because this is also not just about Lebanon, it's about the region and far beyond, is that you need to start with a ceasefire in Gaza. The wild card here, and sorry, before, I need to start a ceasefire in Gaza, and that at the end of the day, there has to be a diplomatic solution to this. Might does not make right, and there's no military victory for anyone in this context. So the option is either we go straight to a diplomatic solution, including in Gaza a ceasefire, release of the hostages, tied directly into a political track for Palestinian self-determination, and it's with a very clear time frame. And in Lebanon, the implementation of 1701, etc. The wild card here today has been the Israeli government, which seems to has been repeatedly opting for a forever war, and not just one war, but forever wars. And I think we've underestimated the profound shift within Israeli society. The political settlement today has shifted significantly within Israeli society. The mood is quite messianic, frankly. We see it in op-eds that are coming out, even recently in the Jerusalem Post, talking about a biblical claim to areas in South Lebanon. So it's not even limited to Palestinian territories anymore. And I think and there's no vision for a way out. There's no political vision. It's just endless violence and conflict. So it's not, and frankly, we've been marching towards this moment. I mean, yesterday started with an Israeli invasion of Lebanon. This is not limited operation. It's an invasion of one country to another. coupled with a mass, the bombardments that have been happening much more intensely over the past week, but have been happening for a year now, of civilian areas. And we ended it with the attack by Iran on military bases in Israel. We don't need to be there. There is an off-ramp, and this is where I think the US has not been practicing the diplomatic, it's not been, the American diplomacy has not been doing what it claims to be doing. And that's, I think, our major concern. And we're seeing this in leaks and conversations, that there is for support for this to continue. And it's not just the attack on Lebanon, it's all of this talk about a new Middle East order, tackling the head of the, whatever, the source of all evil, Iran, etc. This is bringing us to a point where it doesn't have, will not stay in the region. It can easily escalate into a global conflict again. We've been warning about this for years, but it's also raised a lot of questions about the whole international system. Who's writing the rules? There is no one anymore writing the rules of norms and institutions that govern us. All the post-World War II institutions that were put in place are now under question. This split screen in terms of how Ukraine is dealt with and Gaza has dealt with has really upended all of this. So it's really gone far beyond that. And when you have discussions of ethnic cleansing and deliberate famine around Gaza it's public demands by politicians. This is about the fringe becoming the mainstream. We talk about the Israeli government as the most far right. I don't think that's the right word anymore. The Viktor Orban, who's the bad boy of Europe, looks like, he's very mild compared to what we're seeing in Israel today. And I think we need to acknowledge this in order to have the right processes and the right policies that deal with that. Otherwise, we're entering into a cycle of escalating violence, actually an escalation on steroids, frankly, that is going to drag everyone else in and spells disaster for us in the region to begin with. We're paying for this with our lives. These are not numbers. Lebanon has already lost close to 1,800 people in the space of a week. It's other than the damage and destruction.
Yeah, Maha, thank you. Let me just ask you a quick question. There seems to be in Washington going around a large group of a large opinion that the Lebanese are cheering the defeat of Nasrallah. Please address that. How true is that? Where do the Lebanese people stand on this issue?
I actually wrote a piece about this before the killing of Nasrallah, the assassination. I think many Lebanese, because of Hezbollah's policies, I would say the contention started post the unilateral Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon, but also post killing of the assassination of Prime Minister Hariri, the string of assassinations. I won't go through all the challenges, but Hezbollah has increasingly became the face of a corrupt system it was protecting, but also a constant contention with other parts of the Lebanese at large. So there are many Lebanese who are very happy that he's no more in the picture, but it's a mixed feeling. And a lot of the friends and I speak to across the Lebanese spectrum, it's a very, very strange feeling in the sense that they would not have wanted him to go this way. Even his most ferocious adversaries will tell you, we wanted to be the ones to beat him politically. But to have him taken out, so they are not grateful to Israel for assassinating the Secretary General, but even more for him to have been assassinated in this way in the middle of a residential area. And this talk about, using civilians as a human shield. I mean, the Shin Bet is smack in the middle of Tel Aviv. It doesn't excuse, but I'm just saying that this is a much broader practice than is claimed. For him to be assassinated, and we still don't have a count of how many people were killed in this assassination attempt, but just an off-the-cuff coffee table estimate, you're talking 6 buildings that were just evaporated in a split second. If each of these buildings, 6 to 8 floors, had 2 apartments, 5 to 7 people in an apartment, assume half of them were not there. So if it's 150 people, you're talking about 1,000 people gone, evaporated in 1 second to take 1 person out. Assuming these were residential buildings. So this is, I mean, no one's talking about this. And the Lebanese certainly do not want that. And frankly, the invasion of the current ongoing Israeli invasion of Lebanon is only going to have people rally more around Hezbollah today. We are a country that does not have aerial defense, has very little means of protecting itself. And so everybody's going to use whatever is there.
So the feelings are mixed also in this country. I can tell from some of the comments that I'm receiving on both sides of this issue. Paul, do you want to pick up from there and give us your assessment of what we're talking about this morning, what the Prime Minister has talked about, and what more has to be done?
Yeah, well, I think I'd separate out 3 issues. I think there needs to be, obviously, and it's been discussed, but separated, attention and assistance to the displaced. They're going to be displaced probably for a long time. Lebanon, as the Prime Minister mentioned, already is dealing with a lot of Syrian refugees. There is now a lot of internally displaced. So that, on a separate track with international support, should be achieved. I should say that yes, there were worries that, would this destabilize the country? But I'm here in the country, and I think the dominant feeling is, it's very heartwarming to see how people have opened their homes and their villages and towns and embraced these people. Yes, people might have political differences with Hezbollah or with any other party, but citizens are citizens, and to see this embrace and the support, people to people, gives me hope for Lebanon and for the future. So I'm separating the issue of assistance to the displaced and getting that to them, tomorrow, today before tomorrow, because this is probably going to be a long-term displacement. The second thing that I would separate out, that you, Ambassador Gabriel, emphasized very well with the Prime Minister, is elect a president. Obviously, it should have happened long ago, but we cannot be proceeding, first of all, with mass internal displacement and an international war and an invasion, and we don't even bother to elect a president or empower a government. That has to happen right away. And there's no excuse, as you said, Ed. Parliamentarians can go tomorrow morning to Parliament and spend, like they do in the Vatican, hours, days, whatever it takes, and don't come out without selecting somebody to fill that office. The third category, is definitely, is the issue of the ceasefire. And that is linked to 1701. The problem, and I think we have to start by being realistic, we cannot implement 1701. 1701 includes, at a minimum, that Hezbollah is completely out of the area south of the Litani. It also includes that Hezbollah and any other militia in the country is disarmed. After the killing of the Secretary General Nasrallah, Naim Qasim came up and said, nothing's changed. We will continue the fight. So it's 1701, unfortunately, is not deploying the army to south of the Litani and strengthening UNIFIL. It is deploying the army, strengthening UNIFIL with the absolute absence of Hezbollah as a fighting force and so on south of the Litani, and a pathway for integrating, dissolving, whatever it is, Hezbollah, and not having that or any other non-state militia in Lebanon. Now, let's be honest, that's not up to the Prime Minister, who's doing his best, not up to Najib Mikati, the Speaker of Parliament. It's not something the Lebanese army can be asked to do or can do. But we have to be honest that Hezbollah is not on board with that. It's important to note that Hezbollah, to go through the phases of its role, Hezbollah did, and this was recognized throughout the country, in 2000, it drove out the Israeli occupation from southern Lebanon. And for that, it was lauded, it was supported, it was, in 2006, the Secretary General himself said it was a mistake that he provoked Israel to attack Lebanon. But it was only 1 month long, it was terribly devastating, and Hezbollah came out, having fought them to a standstill. Since 2006, Hezbollah's argument to the Lebanese public is that we exist because we need to defend the south and Lebanon and the villagers, and only us can defend it. It has been shown that that does not apply. I think it's, to be realistic, very obvious to anybody who's followed what's happened, that the only way that the people of the south and of Lebanon and in general are going to reclaim stability and security is through the reestablishment of a Lebanese state, and one that has a diplomatic and real and enforceable agreement with the international community, and as we had in the maritime agreement with Israel, but that's a real one. And right now, I'm not criticizing anybody. The reality is we cannot implement 1701. So where do we go from there? I don't know, but what I expect to happen, again, we have to be realistic. Israel is going to continue its military operations in Lebanon, until they want to stop. I don't see, definitely the US is not putting any brakes on them. Hezbollah is no longer able to deter them. The Lebanese army cannot fight them or deter them. We cannot implement 1701. The only hope I would see is for Hezbollah and maybe Iranian leadership to recognize this new situation, and if they really care about the Lebanese people, about their followers and their, the followers in their villages, they would recognize the new reality and help Lebanon and help the Lebanese and help their own followers and supporters to regain security. And it's not going to regain security by maintaining, military operations endlessly for years and years. That's not going to work.
Paul, let me ask both of you, put your peacemaker cap on for a second. The question that I have is, how do we help our communities, not only in the United States, but in Lebanon, come together before there's a deeper fissure? What can Lebanon do to stop that fissure? And what can the United States do to take that fissure seriously so that we don't create more disruption? And in fact, we begin the process, regardless of how we feel today, of moving forward, because there's a lot of hurt on both sides right now. We've got to move forward. How do we do that?
Yeah, if I may, I mean, maybe agreeing with the Prime Minister, and I'm in Lebanon, and I don't see, yes, there are deep political fissures, and and that's maybe part of Lebanese political life. I dare say it's currently part of American political life. But as I said, the people have been glorious. I guess maybe I don't want to overdo it, but there's, there's incidents here and there. Of course, there's going to be incidents here and there. And particularly, I would say the Syrian refugee communities are particularly hostile to Hezbollah because Hezbollah fought them in Syria and displaced them from Syria to Lebanon. So for some Syrian refugees, Hezbollah is a military enemy that fought them. That's not really the case among Lebanese. It's a different thing. So among the people, yes, there's differences, but I don't sense a deep, a deep fissure. People are helping each other out as people. And politically, I don't see any political party wanting to move towards civil unrest or civil conflict. Civil wars don't happen by mistake. Civil war is a war, and usually somebody wants to have it. There's political differences, but I don't see the country, being on the brink of any imminent deep division. And I think, the remedy to even avoid all of that, and the opportunity really that even the Speaker of Parliament is hinting at, is let's come together and pick a president. No country is happy with the president it picks. No, America, some people are going to be unhappy, some people are happy, but countries cannot run without governments. We need a president, we need a prime minister, and we need a functioning government. And instead of worrying about, what might happen in this community and that community, let's get to work and elect a president. And if the US can do one thing, sadly, it's having zero willingness to stop Israel, neither in Gaza nor in Lebanon. And that's a whole nother story, what we're talking among ourselves about Lebanon. I think the US and the quintet and the international community, if the Speaker of Parliament and the Prime Minister and the political parties don't already feel enough pressure to, go down to the parliament and elect a president, then maybe let's pile on the pressure, because this has got to happen and this is doable.
Yep.
I've gone on for too long. Maha,
No, not at all. I want to give Maha, no, very good, Paul, thank you, as usual. Maha, same question to you. Paul, I think, centered on one thing, the presidency, which was very smart. I'm going to have one other question before we close off on Iran, but Maha, why don't you take a quick crack at the peacemaker question and whether or not this fissure has to be addressed? How can it be best addressed by Lebanon and the United States? And is it even as much as some people feel? Thank you.
You're talking about the fissure amongst Lebanese, or
no,
there's
a fissure around the world. From the comments I'm getting right now on my WhatsApp, I can see that a lot of people feel one way or the other about what's going on in Lebanon. Some, feel good about the defeat. Others are saying they're
in a ceasefire now. I have to disagree a bit with Paul around the implementation of 1701. I think with international support, Lebanon can implement 1701. From what I'm understanding and what I'm hearing, and actually what the Prime Minister just said, is that there is Hezbollah is in a position, they've taken significant hits over the past year, but especially over the past 10 days. They are ready for the implementation of 1701. But that Lebanon cannot do it on its own. It needs international support in a very significant way, both for the army, but also for the implementation itself. Maybe it should include revisiting and expanding the mandate of UNIFIL in one way or the other. There are people who've worked on this and what needs to be done for 1701 to be implemented. But we do need a ceasefire, and we need it now for us to even begin to think about how do you heal those fissures. Again, my concern is if this is not stopped, it's going to be catastrophic. It already is catastrophic for Lebanon, but the spillover is far beyond anything we can imagine. And we're already, as I mentioned earlier, we're already seeing the escalation. It's literally an escalation on steroids. We've gone from a conflict between Hamas and Israel, then it became an invasion of Lebanon. And then, it's now missile attacks between Iran and Israel. So this puts the entire region, but I would argue the globe, on the precipice of a much larger conflict. And I think this is where we need to kind of focus on. Okay. In order to stem that, you need to stop what's happening in Gaza. And Gaza is horrific. We're talking 42,000 officially declared dead and another 10 to 20 maybe under the rubble, and that's the conservative estimate. So we need a political vision in place, and the United States can play a very positive role here. Unfortunately, it's not. And all the talk about having a new order, I mean, this discussion about a new order in the Middle East, for me, is so reminiscent of 2003 and the new order that was supposed to come with the invasion of Iraq and the removal of Saddam Hussein. And we're paying the price for that, today. We saw where that ended. So I know this has become, I mean, it's generating a lot of excitement in Washington, the idea of a new order in the region and getting rid of Iran. That won't be, it's going to be, if we continue along this path, it's going to be a disaster for everybody.
Thank you, Maha. Last question before we close off. We only have a few minutes, so it's regional. What should the U.S. be doing when it comes to Iran? A lot of people say the solution to Lebanon goes through Tehran, not through Beirut. That aside, what is it the U.S. is not doing when it comes to an Iranian policy? And then more regionally, how does the Gulf and the other countries play into this solution? Paul, I'll start. Well, Maha, take a crack at it. Then Paul, you'll have the last word.
No, you can start with Paul. I spoke quite a bit now, so it's fine.
Okay. You want to go,
I'll go
Paul?
for the last track.
Well, I mean,
we got a
it's
couple
kind of-
minutes. Thanks.
Yeah, very late in the game to say a year after the war in Gaza, what should the U.S. be doing? I think the U.S., was right in wanting to bring the war in Gaza to an end and to bring about a ceasefire many months ago in Gaza. And to lay the groundwork for a two-state solution that would have ended the fighting between Hezbollah and Israel in Lebanon. It would have avoided any escalation between Israel and Iran, and we would not be in the situation we are in now. But again, to be realistic, here we are. We are in a situation where Israel has already slipped the leash, as they say. It is calling the shots. Netanyahu has much more influence on U.S. policy than President Biden. He is the one who got 50 standing ovations in Congress, not Joe Biden, and he knows it. And hence, he is leading Israeli and American policy in the Middle East. He's dragged U.S. into every detail of what he's been doing in Gaza. He's dragged the U.S. into every detail he's doing in Lebanon. And now Israel is going to be hitting Iran directly and probably hitting it hard. Iran will probably respond. We are in a regional war between Iran and Israel. The U.S. is part of it. At this stage, I mean, you ask me what can the U.S. do to stop or dissuade Israel? I don't think there's anything realistic that they can do to convince Netanyahu. And we have to be, it's very sad that the U.S. Congress and the U.S. administration doesn't have the backbone. I think President Reagan, demonstrated something different a long time ago. President Eisenhower back in the 50s, but not anytime soon. But what concerns our maybe discussion here, I think there is a fair amount the U.S. can do to help Lebanon. Definitely trying to get a ceasefire is a must. It's difficult, but we must try. But the other two things are not difficult. Helping the displaced people is not difficult. Electing a president and a government and beginning serious governance reconstruction in Lebanon is not difficult, and Israel cannot stop us from doing that.
Thank you so much, Paul. Excellent comments. Maha, 2 minutes or less, please.
Probably less, because Paul summed up much of what I would have said, particularly around both in terms of what can be done internally. I completely concur with Paul that there's nothing stopping the local political leaders, the Lebanese political leaders, from electing a president, putting together a roadmap, not only for rebuilding, reconstruction, but also for rebuilding the economy. This is a country that collapsed financially and economically 5 years ago. We're 5 years too late for that. So there's nothing preventing. And then dealing, helping the displaced. People are sleeping on the streets. 1 million displaced people in a population of 5 million. That already gives you an indication of how terrible the situation is. And winter is coming. So it's only going to get a lot worse. And Israel is still issuing evacuation orders. It began with the southern suburbs, but now we're looking at evacuation orders in the south. And they're asking people not to move beyond Litani, but actually to move beyond the Awali River, which is on the edge of Saida. So considerably far from the border area. So that kind of support, I think, is very important. On the international scene, frankly, yes, pulling a Ronald Reagan or a Dwight Eisenhower on Israel is the only way to go today. And it's the only way to rein in the expansionist, but also the kind of push for more and more war, more and more conflict by the current Israeli government. They're in the driving seat. As for Arab countries, unfortunately, until now, they've been missing in action, so to speak. There hasn't been a concerted effort. There has been piecemeal efforts by Qatar. The Jordanian minister, Ayman Safadi, foreign minister Ayman Safadi, has been very vocal and maybe represents what many people are thinking and feeling in the region. And more recently, we saw the initiative by Prince Faisal, the Saudi foreign minister. But it's not enough. We need to have a lot more support for a very clear vision of a way out of this, with a clear roadmap in terms of how we're going to go about this. And this is where you need not only the leadership of the United States in terms of they can help with Israel, but the Arabs can help with the Arab side.
So thank you so much. Let me just tell you, I just was informed that the Prime Minister had to rush over to Barry's office. That's where he's going now. I don't know if it had anything to do with this session today. We'll find out, I suppose, in the days ahead. But here's my takeaway from this very important discussion. Number one, the U.S. and its allies internationally has to lead, show leadership, strong leadership for a ceasefire. The Lebanese have to show strong leadership to elect a president, and the international community has to come together to really deal with this terrible humanitarian crisis, which is going to only show itself in the days ahead, which is going to be much worse, as well as, investing in the one institution that people believe in, and that's the Lebanese Armed Forces. So those are the takeaways you're giving me today, and let's see what happens tomorrow, and look forward to talking to everyone. Thank you all for being with us today. Take care.